Alright, so, you guys are wondering what's been up with, sorry if some of my videos, I'm kind of a little more quiet and then other ones I'm a little bit louder, both in terms of just my voice overall or just volume. It's been interesting, with doing all this. Plus, I have roommates, so I try my best not to distract him or interrupt him and all that, but so usually when he's not here, that's usually when when I talk a little bit louder because I know he's not here, so I know I won't be bothering anyone in nearby with my constant yapping. Okay, let's get into this episode. So this is Amphibia. This is episode 17A, Cursed. Yeah, there was a curse in this episode. And I think what's interesting is, let me ask, for those who are watching this video, how many of you guys saw Owl House before this? Because, Amphibia came out before the Owl House. So I wonder if there were people who saw the Owl House before Amphibia, like me, because I went into this and I see a lot of similarities, and I'm like, oh, that was in the Owl House. But Amphibia did it first. In a way, they did it first. It's like a call, So instead of a call back to do the Owl House, it's a call back to Amphibia when the Owl House does it. So yeah, all right. And this episode, it's cursed. So and the Owl House, curses are a pretty big thing in that show. But in this episode, it's I imagine it might come back. I don't know. Because so Sprig and Maddie, you remember all the way back in episode 3A when they were talking about making a pizza and Anne made the deal with the Doman to have Sprig marry his daughter. I love how we still have that connection, that continuity. I love that. It's so funny because, again, when they bring it up, it's like, remember, I'm engaged to her. Remember, I wish Sprig would snap at Anne a little bit more. Remember when you got me engaged to her over dough for a pizza or something like that. I just wish that would have been there, just to hammer in that joke or just the continuity a bit more. Regardless of that, Anne pretty much tells Sprig to break up with Maddie, but, Maddie, if you've seen the show, Maddie, on the surface, is kind of the creepy girl, And that's the message of the episode, It's kind of like the Wally episode a bit, because Wally, he seems, on the surface, he seems like just a crazy dude, but, he says that's just who he is. This episode doesn't focus on, it focuses on Maddie's character a lot. I liked her beforehand because just for her creep factor, but in this episode, they really show, she's more than just the creep factor. And again, love these episodes when they focus on a specific secondary character. When you have this many episodes, you can do that. With longer shows, it's harder to gain connections with all the people unless you always consistently throw them into something, or at least have scenes with them that are memorable. So, yeah, but yeah. So Anne basically tells Sprig to break up with Maddie, and Sprig's like, I don't want to do that for obvious reasons. So Anne is like, oh, okay, I can do it. Back where I'm from, I'm the breakup queen, or I love this, the angel of death. Now I just want to see Anne just with some dark wings on her back, just with that look on her eyes, that would be pretty terrifying in my opinion. But however, all the even Anne kind of chickens out of doing the breakup for Sprig because she sees Maddie putting a dough like a dough sculpture of Sprig and Anne in a oven in the oven, and Anne's is like, yeah, nope. So they do the equivalent of text of breakup over text in Amphibia. They write a note and even put a frowny face on it and threw it towards Maddie. And yeah, that Maddie, I mean, like she she's definitely mad about it, but she doesn't flip out. I mean, she just gives them a look of like, you pieces of crap. And then just leaves. And then all the while they accidentally, but while that happened, Anne and Sprig, they bumped into this wide-eyed, happy-go-lucky Willy Wonka street salesman candy man named Barry. And he's like, and they're sorry, they said sorry, they said, they bump into him and they knock down all of his like these berries with like these blueberries with white stars on them. They look kind of sparkly too. And they're like, oh, sorry, didn't mean to do that. And Barry's like, it's okay. Yeah, he kind of talks like that. It's okay, I don't mind. Yeah. And so we then get this very clever shot of, or well, this very clever scene where we enter this shack where we see a cauldron, we see a person, we don't really see their hands that well. We see them dump some stuff into a cauldron and turns green, and then they cast this kind of spell, and the next day Sprig and Anne wake up and they find out that they're cursed. Like Hop Hop says. Hop says, like, you've been cursed. Yeah. And I love Anne's like, what? That's a thing here? And I'm like, it's funny because at first I was like, well, from what you've seen, you would imagine a curse is a thing here. But at the same time, I'm like, well, they don't believe that the Moss Man is real, so maybe she does have a point. And obviously, Sprig and they think it's Maddie who cursed them because they kind of got her angry that day, that the previous day, and that's the only logical person who could have done it. And oh yeah, the fact that it's like it's interesting because for Amphibia, it's a show about amphibians, and it's this episode when I realized. Well, I think it's just because the creators knew sooner or later they were going to have to at least make a joke or a reference to this. So, the curse forms that Anne and Sprig have. Anne basically turns into Big Bird from Sesame Street. Except instead of yellow feathers, it's brown and black feathers, which makes sense because that's her hair color. So, she slowly turns into, and they don't even hide it. You can, like, the head, the beak, it's Big Bird. I just wish they gave her like cartoonishly, or not. Yeah, I wouldn't say cartoonishly. I wish they gave her legs like more of the more stripe, like the more obvious stripe color pattern, like Big Bird's. But I don't think so. That would have been weird. Sprig, on the other hand, he kind of. It's weird because he turns into this. He turns basically into a ball of hair, kind of like, remember in the Barnyard movie, that crazy little Tasmanian devil kind of thing, they called it Wild Mike, remember they always had the crazy music playing over it while he was out, the Sprig turns into that, but less crazy, and at first, neither of them want to confront Maddie because they are still scared of her, and they try to cure the curse themselves, but to no remorse. And funny enough, Maddie actually comes to them because she was there to deliver some bread for the planters. So Sprig, of course, is left with no choice in there and breaks and like apologizes to Maddie, saying that he should have been honest with her and confronted her. Maddie says, it's okay, it's okay. I mean, she's like, I'm a little bit hurt, but I'm glad you're honest with me. And so they're like, great, can you undo this curse now? And she's like, oh, it's not my curse. And they're like, wait, what? And that's kind of the twist. It's like, this isn't Maddie's curse, and again, it kind of goes back to that scene where we saw the curse happen. We didn't see who it was. And that's the kind of clever, and that's really, I mean, again, it's kind of like a requirement to show how it, like, to show what's happening. Like, if they obviously ended at the market and didn't show the scene where someone casted a curse on them and just woke up the next day and they were that, then it would have been more automatic of like, yeah, it's obviously Maddie. But I like how they showed the scene because it does leave you a little bit more vague. Because again, all you saw were a pair of hands like doing it. You didn't see a person's face. You didn't see anything. So Sprig and Anne are kind of freaking out because they don't know who cursed them. So luckily for them, Maddie is an expert on curses, and she is able to track the person who cursed them. And so Anne and Sprig, they go after it, and while they're on the move, Maddie questions Sprig and Anne's, conclusion. She's like, why would you think it was me? And Sprig's like, well, because I dumped you like that, and I thought that since you're kind of creepy, you kind of do see curses, I just thought you did it. And she's like, and Maddie actually feels hurt by that. She's like, just because I'm creepy and I don't like curses doesn't automatically mean that it was me. And she's like, you can't just, and she's like, maybe if you knew, and basically that's kind of the lesson of the episode is, you can't judge someone on the surface. You have to, even if they have like personality and traits that you, in your mind, you think, okay, that automatically makes them this. No. There's more to them than meets the eye. That's what it is for everyone. Because again, it kind of goes back to an episode, I completely forgot what episode it was, but it kind of goes back to the episode where, I completely forgot what it was, but when I talked about it, it was like, you can't, maybe, was it even Amphibia, or maybe it was just a review, crap, I completely forgot. You don't know a person, unless, you think you can fully understand a person, know a person, head to toe, inside and out. No. Everyone is hard to understand unless you spend a lot of time with them, unless you really get to know them, unless you really are certain that they are what they are. You can't be that, you can't just look at someone and say, yeah, I know who that person is. No, you can't, because you don't know them. You have to know them, you have to understand them, you have to, all of that. And so I like how that's kind of the message for this episode. Because when they finally go to the place where the curse was formed, it's Barry. And they're like, why? You were so nice and so giving. You gave us candy. I'm like, I'm just like, the fact that there is like, you gave us candy. I'm like literally looking at him like, this is a candy. Like, it's basically a candy shop. And I'm like, yeah, giving candy to kids. Yeah, I know a world where that one doesn't fly. And so Barry, like, explains in his over-the-top happy manner. He's like, when you guys knocked over my berries yesterday, they were ancient, and I went my for vengeance. It's kind of like a bizarro version of Pennywise, the more I think about it. He just has that over-the-top voice in my mind. Like, I close my eyes, and I kind of can see Pennywise saying a few of these lines. So it all seems, and oh yeah, they did kind of spit this out. Looks can be deceiving. That kind of, again, going back to that lesson of like, you can't judge a person solely based off of their appearance. And the surface. You have to learn to know them on a deeper level. And and this is pretty much now the trope of this is pretty much an Amphibia trope. There has to be a giant explosion when they do these. Like, and that's exactly what happens in this one. There's a giant explosion. And I love this one because we get a shot of Hop Hop at the farm, and in the background you just see this giant explosion, and he's just like I love that. I don't know, that's not my favorite explosion. Oh my god, I gotta do an explosion compilation of the show. There's a lot of them. And the explosion came when Maddie was battling Barry, and they had this kind of curse battle. Like they're throwing out these different pouches of curses, and like, take that. And Maddie's able to outsmart Barry by doing pretty much the ultimate reverse card, really, because she takes like Sprig and Anne's she takes a hair of Sprig and a feather of Anne, wraps it up and makes a curse, then she throws it at Barry, hits Barry, then the giant explosion happens, and in one fell swoop she lifts the curse from Anne and Sprig and puts it on Barry, because Barry turns into this giant bird. Pretty sure it's a bird, or a chicken. I can't, like white, like, and he basically, yeah. I even love how he's like, please don't do this, and it's like Maddie's like, oh yeah, I'll do it for a price. They get like loads of candy for free, and it all ends at the house where Sprig and Maddie make amends, and they remain friends. A little too creepily. Oh wait, no, actually no, not creepily. There's something else. And it doesn't end with them at the house. It actually ends with this little gag, I guess, so in the middle of the night, Sprig wakes up and he hears something downstairs, and he goes to check. And you kind of think it's gonna be Maddie, because again, you kind of got that creep factor, and even me was like, God, why did you think that? They ended with Anne like eating ants off the floor, but like she's doing it like this because she was the bird. When she was the bird, she did that. Like, she ate ants off the floor like that. She even like ate giant worms, and I love one of the moments where she's like, I hate this curse. And that's where it ends. And yeah, this is, I mean, again, I like episodes that dive into a secondary character. I also like the message. I liked the curse that they had. This was just a really solid episode, and again, it really felt tight. It got straight to the point with most of its objectives, while also having some good comedic moments. And just, I really like this episode. And I mean, I wouldn't consider it my favorite. I think Wally and Anne is my favorite so far in the series. In terms of just heart, character, and comedy. I think, Wally and Anne right now is my favorite. I mean, I don't know what the rest of the season's got. I don't know what season 2 has. But, yeah. Alright. That's it for this one. So, hope you guys enjoyed, and see you in the next one.